good afternoon, everybody. It's Hakeem here, and thanks for attending our Training for Local Business Chamber of Commerce training session this afternoon. I know you're all very busy, so I don't want to hold you for too long, but we've got a couple of people who I know have signed up who are not yet online, so we're just going to, it's just hit 2 o'clock now, so I'll just give them a couple of minutes to come online. In the meantime, if you could just type in the chat box, which you'll find at the bottom of that GoToMeeting box, I don't know what you call it, it's a box. If you could just type in there and that you can all hear me clearly, that would be very, very useful. And if you cannot, then you can't hear me. But if you can't, I've just typed in the chat box myself that, you know, one of the things that I've also got on the slide is that if you're dialing in by phone, fine, because you'll have a phone pin, so you'll be able to hear me clearly. If you have come in through the computer, in the audio section, then there's a setting that says mic and mic and speakers. So if you go onto the mic and speakers, just click on there, then you'll be able to hear me clearly. So yeah, people are typing in that they can hear me, so that's good. Just a couple of minutes, because I know sometimes the first time that you try to get into a GoToMeeting, then it can be difficult because you have to download some stuff. But once you've done it once, the next time in the following weeks, you won't have to download anything. So I'll just give a couple of seconds and then a couple of minutes even, and then we'll proceed on. Okay, thanks. Hi, yeah, for those people just arriving, just to let you know, the reason why there's a bit of silence on the line is because we are about to kick off. I'm just letting know there's a few people I know signed up who have not arrived, so just hold fire. It's going to be about a minute or so. So as you're arriving, I hope you can hear. So if you can just type in the chat box at the bottom that you can hear, that would be really useful. So I just want to make sure that before we start, everyone can hear. So yeah, all those people who are just arriving, if you could just type in the box and say yes, that's fine. Let's put yes in the chat box. Okay, so there's a few more people who are arriving who can hear, so that's good. Okay, what I'm going to do, because we've got critical mass, I'm going to kick off, because I know you're busy business owners, so I know you want me to get on with it. So today, as you can see, we're going to talk about why market your business online, and we're going to give an overview of why you should market your business online, and then over the next few weeks and the coming weeks and months, we're then going to get into some of the specific nitty-gritty of how you can do it and how you can make it cost-effective and get a good return on investment. So I suppose the first question is why you should listen to me, and as per all good technical, there we go, all good technical processes, my slides are frozen. However, so the question, I suppose, is who am I and why you should listen to me and listen to us as an organisation. My name is Hakeem Debi, and that picture is me. Unfortunately, I think I need a new picture, but that's a story for another day. And I've got 18 years sales and marketing experience. I'm not going to go into a super long description of myself unless you're desperate to hear about it. Then we can talk on another occasion. But yeah, I've got 18 years of sales and marketing experience, and the last 3 of those have been in online sales and marketing. But prior to that, I was doing offline marketing, and I actually did it in the pharmaceutical industry. So I was sales and marketing director for several pharmaceutical companies over that period of time. So hopefully that gives you some assurance that I know what I'm doing. Also, I suppose it's very important to know that I now work with local businesses and help them get found online. And I suppose the positive that I would take from your point of view is that there's nothing that I will teach or discuss that I don't do myself and put into practice for either my business or for other local businesses. So what I want these sessions to be is to be as practically focused as possible and not just theory-based, because I know that's what business owners, being one myself, don't like. Okay, so the organisation is Hans Associates, and I'm the CEO of that organisation. And I suppose the other important thing really is, you know, online marketing is changing on a regular basis. And you know, it does take time to keep up to date with it, and that's one of the things that I do to ensure that I can offer the very latest information to my customers, my client base, and also obviously people on this call, because I spend several hours every week to make sure I stay on current with online changes, because if you don't, you'll be doing things that are out of date and won't help you to drive your business. And really this session that I've agreed to do with the Chamber of Commerce, the critical thing for it is really to ensure that we can help local businesses get an online presence with some simple techniques that aren't going to cost the earth and will help your business and help you grow your business. So that's the key thing. So hopefully that's all right. If everybody's still with me, just type yes in the box below, so I know that everybody's still with me, and that's clear. Okay, so in terms of moving on, then, excuse me, I seem to be having great deal of difficulty with my, there we go, with my PowerPoint slide for some reason. So yeah, there's 3 types of business owners that I would anticipate on this call, and I'm pretty confident this will be the case, because these are the 3 types of business owners that we deal with generally every time we do a course. The first type is the ones that take what we teach and put it into action immediately, and you know, I hope that everybody's in that category, but it's not always going to be the same. The second one are the ones that hire somebody else to put what we teach into action immediately, and either one of those two is fine, because the key thing here is taking action and putting it into process immediately. Because the third type is the ones that we hope are not on the call, the ones that have the best intentions but just never get around to it. Because my promise to you is that everything that we teach over the next few months have the potential, really, and I'm being honest here, it has the potential to make your business a lot of extra money. Now, all I ask, as it says there, is that if you're part of this group, then you're one of those that puts it into action yourself, or that you hire someone else to do what you've learned, if you can afford that. Either way, you'll get results from the training. But what we don't want is people to come on and say, yeah, it sounds like a great idea, but I haven't got time to do it, you know, or I'm not too sure if I'm able to do it. I can guarantee that everybody's able to do it, and if you've got the time, it's very, very cost effective. If you haven't got the time, get somebody in to help you do it. But you really will get a benefit if you put into practice what we're going to discuss and what I'm going to be discussing certainly today and then over the next few weeks. So that's the key thing. What I would suggest everybody does is make sure you take notes, ask any questions as I go along, so that, by putting it into the text box, and then I can answer those questions. I might not answer them as we go along, but I will do if it's appropriate. If not, we'll have a question and answer session at the end. So in terms of what we're going to learn today, we're going to look at the necessity for online marketing, of course, the reality of search engine optimization, and explain what that means, and then most importantly, which I'm sure a lot of people are interested in, is the 7 secrets to help you outsmart your competition. Now, there is going to be a bit of homework because, as I said, we want to get you into one of those first 2 groups, people who take action or people who are going to get someone to take action for them. So we're going to give you some homework so that you're almost forced to do something for next week, for 2 reasons. Number one, if you leave this call and you don't take action, then it's unlikely that you'll take action before next week, and therefore you won't get the true benefit. So that's the first thing. And then secondly, when you come next week, we want to make sure that we're moving people along. This is not just a listen and nothing really. We want to move people along so that you are getting benefit from the training. There will be a replay available. So whilst we say take notes, then you'll also have an opportunity, and I'll hope and I'll aim to get that up by Friday at the latest, so that then there'll be a replay of this. We're recording the call, and as long as GoToMeeting doesn't do any problems, then we will have it all recorded and set up for you. So as it said at the top of there, the important thing, and one of the main reasons that you need to be online, is because search, mobile and social have changed the way consumers buy, and therefore we need, as business owners, to really start to understand how that's changed and what we need to do to keep on top of it. And I'm going to go through quite quickly, so if there is any specific issues, then stop me and let me know, because I'm going to go quite quickly, because this is a top line overview, and then we're going to get into some real nitty-gritty over the next few weeks. So I'm sure most people know, and the way people shop nowadays is different than the way they used to shop. And it's changed drastically over the last 10 years, certainly, because you've got things like Google, Yahoo, Bing, Yelp. I was speaking to my wife the other day when a Thomson local directory came through the door. I don't think I've looked at a Thomson local directory in about 6 or 7 years. I don't think I've opened the Yellow Pages for even longer than that. And I'll be surprised if anyone else is any different. I mean, type in that chat box, the last time that you used offline media, i.e. a local newspaper or a Thomson local directory. It'd be useful to know, when the last time was that you actually checked in using that sort of thing to actually look for a shop or look for something of that nature. Yeah, 5 years there, 2 years there, 6 years there. Yeah, so pretty much what you're saying is that you're not using that form of search anymore. And most people are using search, i.e. they're going into Google or Yahoo or Bing and typing in, local shop, whatever that may be, or you're looking for a plumber, you're looking plumber in Manchester, or you have people who are social, who are going onto social networks and they're getting information from Google+, they're getting information from Twitter, they're getting information from Facebook. And social is specifically important when it comes to endorsements, because if your friend says that they have a local plumber and they post it, for example, on Facebook or Twitter, you're much more likely to take that recommendation than if you just see some random person that you don't know saying, yeah, this is a great plumber. And then mobile, and we're just going to talk a bit about mobile and how important mobile is now and is going to be over the next few years. So just before we move on, there's some important stats which I think themselves will tell you why it's important to be online if you didn't know before. I'm assuming most people do because they're on this course, should I say. But yeah, 70% of consumers search reviews or ratings before purchasing. Now, this is data from 2008, and it's significantly changed. I just haven't updated this this slide for obviously some time. But a lot of people are basically looking at reviews and ratings online before they purchase. So that's a really important thing to understand and realize why we need to be online. If you look at local search volumes, as you can see, it's increasing quite significantly. Back in 2008, there was 1 billion searches per month. In 2011, which was the last time this data was released, or the last time I updated anyway, 3.45 billion local searches, and that's from Google. And the important thing here, and you'll see you'll see the relevance of this as we move forward, is that 43% of searches are local in nature. And that's really important when we start talking about how you make sure that you get found online, and how you ensure that when someone is looking for a plumber or looking for whatever business you may be in, they find you, because local searches are one of the most important things that you need to get found for. So we will certainly talk about that. This is important as well. Social media use has grown by 712% since 2005, and Pew are just, I think, an American research organization. So this is really important. Or should I say, the last sentence is really important, because it's not just amongst the kids. Lots of people believe that social media is something that kids do. And I think the last stats, and I haven't got the stats here, but I think the average age for a Facebook user, for example, I think it's between 30 and 35. And I can't remember, I think about 10% of people over the age of 60 as well that are on Facebook. So it's not just for kids. Yes, there are a lot of kids doing all sorts of pictures and stuff on there, but there's lots of big businesses and, more importantly, small local businesses that have realized that Facebook is a very, very cost-effective way of marketing their business. And there's one company, just as a little aside, that I work with that actually told me, I started working with them probably 3 or 4 months ago, and they started going to Facebook in a big way, I think in around January, February, and they said that they now get 80% of their business from Facebook. And more importantly, that their business has grown significantly since they've started using Facebook. So it's not just for kids, and that's a really important point to take home. Now, another important factor is that mobile is proving at the moment to be the biggest game changer of them all, because loads of people are on mobile, and people, a lot of small businesses aren't aware of this, and therefore when we're looking at building your website, lots of people have websites, but what they're finding is that actually they're not getting a huge amount of business, and that's because loads, and I've got some stats I think coming up, but lots of people are now searching on mobile. So if your website isn't optimized for mobile, then it looks very, very poor when you try to look at the website on the mobile. And I can't remember the stats, so let me just see. So 94% of UK have and use mobile phones. 73% say it's their number one most used technology, and that comes from BT. And people are actually moving away from websites. I think it's not there. I have got the stats somewhere, but I'll come on to it. But I think about 70% of users that, if it is not optimized for mobile and they go onto the site on a mobile, they'll actually click off the site because it doesn't look nice and it's hard to navigate. So that's why it's really, really important that your site is not just found in the Google search, but it's also optimized for mobile, so that actually if I'm on a desktop I can find it, if I'm on a mobile I can find it, and these stats bear that out, because it's saying that there's 94% of UK have mobile phones, so it's what's over 60 million people in the UK. That's a lot of people that actually, if you haven't got a mobile website, you're missing out on people. And quite simply, whether we like internet, whether we like social media, that is where our customers are, and if our customers are in a place, then we need to be in that same place. And the beauty of it is that we can find them very easily and make sure that we can target them very specifically using internet marketing. So it's a really nice way to target customers. But obviously there's a way to do it. So in essence, what does all that mean? Well, what it means is that every business, in my opinion, and I think in the opinion of most people who do internet marketing, there's 4 things that you need to do. And those 4 things are, number 1, you need to compete for search engine traffic. because search is the first step that consumers take in the buying process. If I'm looking for a plumber, then I'm going to go into Google or Bing or Yahoo, whatever, and I'm going to type in plumbers in Manchester, emergency plumbers in Manchester, etc. So, as I said earlier, if you aren't competing in that arena, then in essence you're not competing, because all your competitors or the top competitors will be online, and when I search in plumber in Manchester, that competitor will come up, and that's where the business will go. And then you're going to be fighting a losing battle, because, as I said before, most people now are online, and that's where the customers are actually searching and finding information. The second thing that we need to do is that you need to mobilize your marketing. This is where the stats were. I knew there was somewhere. So consumers are now using their phones to find local businesses. So I said 71%. It's actually 61%. 61% of people who are using mobiles to, to find businesses are saying that they will leave a website if it isn't optimized for mobile, because it just looks horrible. So it is critical that we optimize your sites, and your sites are optimized for mobile. The third thing is you then need to engage people. And of course you can engage people on your website in different ways, but the easiest way to engage people is using social networks, because people are now starting to research companies through social channels before purchasing. So your reputation will be all over social networks. So even if you hated Facebook, for example, then it's still worthwhile going to see what people are talking about on the social networks. It may be useful for your product development, but it's certainly useful in terms of customer management and making sure that if there is any complaints, and they're not complaining to you but they're complaining on a social network, you're on that social network so that you can then get involved and actually shape your reputation. And we're going to talk about reputation management in a few weeks actually. And then the last one is that you need to invest, and this is not necessarily cash investment, although it can be, but this is, you need to invest certainly time in monitoring, managing and improving your online reputation, looking at all these things like the mobile, the search engine traffic, and the social media, because you want to make sure that you take hold of your presence online, and that you're managing your reputation, because whether you like it or not, people are talking about your business online, and if they're not talking specifically about your business, then that's then an issue, because it means that you're not that popular. And they're certainly talking about your business area online, and you want to make sure that you are at the forefront of that. So you're shaping your reputation, and also you're building your reputation as an authority figure in whatever particular niche that you happen to be in. So at this stage, I'll just take not a short recess, but just check that everyone's still with me. If there are any questions at this point before we move on, if not, I'll just wait to see. No, everyone said that's clear. Okay, thanks for that. Everyone seems relatively happy. If there's no questions, I shall push on. But every time I'm checking the question, I've noticed. There we go. So, as we said, now more than ever, you need to have a marketing plan that works, that's relevant. And that doesn't mean that the marketing plan you currently have is not working, but unless you have all or more customers than you can handle, then, and I would assume that if you're on this call, then that's not the case, because you're trying to look at how do you improve your online presence, how do you improve what you can do and get to the market. But it's about that relevance. You want to make sure that your marketing plans are relevant today and will be relevant as you move forward. And that's why it's critical to do online marketing. And what we're going to focus on for the rest of the call today, as we said, there's 4 things you've got to do. And the first one of those is compete for search engine traffic. And we're going to focus on that today, because that's the starting point. So as we said, the starting point for all or 94% of businesses was that they search in the search engine before they purchase a product. So what we want to focus on is how do we ensure that when they search for whatever product or service that we have and that we're trying to get out to the market, that our name is the one that comes at the top. Our reputation is the one that has the 5 stars or has the 25 reviews that say how great we are. And that is what we want to look at today, because that's the starting point. And even if you did nothing else and that's all you did, I would suggest that you do more than that, but if that was all you did, that would start getting you customers coming through the door where you might not be getting customers in that specific area at the moment. So, as we said, 93% of online experiences begin with search. 77% of search users choose organic over paid listings. And then organic click through generates 25% higher conversion rates than PPC. Just seeing a question come in from Francis. We're going to go into more specifically what the differences are here, but as we move forward. But basically, Francis was asking, what's the difference between organic, click-through rate, and PPC? Organic is that when you effectively type in, and I don't know why I'm using plumbers all the time, but I'll stick with the theme. But organic is that when you type in plumber in Manchester, for example, then the listings that come up at the top are paid adverts. So, and I'll show you shortly. The one I think on Google is sort of like a pinkish colour, and they'll be right at the top. They are paid adverts, and that is what we call pay per click. And basically, someone's paid for those to be positioned right at the top of Google, and they can be very, very costly. And every time you click, that's when the person who's paid for that advert gets charged. That's why they're called pay per click. And the organic one is the one that's the next level down, and you'll see they'll still be on page one, they'll still be at the top of the organic search rankings, and they're called organic or natural search. And what this slide is basically saying is that 77% of people who are searching for plumbers in Manchester will always choose the organic search, or the organic listing, rather than clicking the pay-per-click, which you could argue, well, why would you do pay-per-click? And I don't actually. It works, but it's very, very expensive. And if you know what you're doing with the organic searches, which is what we're going to focus on, then if you get to the top of the organic searches, or in the top 3 of the organic searches, then that's actually more effective, as you can see here, because 77% of people who are coming are going to click those rather than click the paid advertising. And then click-through rate basically just means when people see it, how many times do they click it. So if they see it and they click it, it shows up and they click, and then you've got a click-through rate of 100% or 1, basically. So hopefully that's clear. So moving on, this is interesting. So the question is, what is SEO? Search engine optimization, because this is what people talk about all the time. Yeah, I want to get you to the top of the organic search rankings. We need to do a bit of SEO. And what we always try to do is make sure that people understand all the terms we use. And as I said before, if there's any questions you have, just put them in the box. If I'm talking jargon, then make sure that you pull me up on that, and then I'll stop and I'll go and explain it. Because for me, the important thing about this training is that actually you understand really clearly what I'm talking about, basically. Otherwise, it's pointless. So search engine optimization, or SEO is known, is quite simply, all it is the process of improving the visibility of your website or a web page, because a website doesn't have to be multiple web pages, it might just be one web page. And in terms of web page, all that means is when you go onto a website and you have an About Us page and then you have a Contact Us page, they're both individual web pages, so that would be 2 web pages. And some websites are just a web page and you scroll down. So they are websites of a sort. So SEO is just improving that visibility of that web page or website in the search engines, the unpaid. So this is organic or natural, as it says, search results. So that, if you recall, what we said was that's the one below the paid advertising. So what you're trying to do is ensure that every time somebody's searching for your particular product or service, then you are in those organic rankings, so that they see your name and they think, yes, actually this person, number 1, must be reputable, because otherwise how can he get to the top of Google, and number 2, actually this fits the criteria of what I'm looking for. So that's what SEO is. That's what we're trying to do when we talk about SEO. We try to get you to the top of the rankings. Now, just a couple of tips on SEO. Anybody who comes and tells you that they'll get you to the top of Google rankings in 2 weeks, be very, very wary of them. SEO and ranking on any search engine is based generally on consistency over time. And the most important thing is having fresh, relevant content. And that's why you've seen so many blogs sprout up over the last few years, because on a blog you are putting on content maybe once a week or once a day, and Google loves fresh, relevant content because there's no, it's not a dark art, is probably what I'm trying to say in terms of SEO. It's very simple that what Google and all the other search engines want to do is give a fantastic experience to the user. So if I put in plumbers in Manchester, I want to make sure, or Google wants to make sure, that I get the most relevant and the best matches for plumbers in Manchester. And the best way to do that is having good, relevant content. So firstly, that talks about, or talks to the way you build your website. So you've got good content on there which talks about what you do, what you offer, so that when Google directs a person to your website, it's very relevant. It therefore it needs to ensure that you're putting relevant content on there. The second thing is that having links from other high-value sites, and we're going to speak more about that as we go through. But links are basically when you have your website address, which is a link. If you find your website address on, let's say for example, the Chamber of Commerce website, then that means that you have now got a link from the Chamber of Commerce back to your site. And the higher the value of that site, the more reputable your site is seen, not just by other users, but also by Google. So what you're trying to do is get your links on as many high value, reputable sites as possible, because actually, if you can do that, that's sometimes easier than actually try to drive traffic on your own to your site. So that's a really important one, and we're going to talk about that a bit more in detail. Predominance is another important thing, and again, all of these come under the title you see of consistency over time. It's critically vital, I don't think you need those words, but it's vital that you make sure that everything we're doing here is done consistently. You'll get some companies who will do it, you'll see them on page one day, Google will do one of their changes, and the next day they're nowhere. The people that stay on Google and stay on page one consistently are the ones that actually are working on their website and their presence, social, mobile, etc. consistently. So where they are listed, because we talked about high value sites. Some of the highest value sites that you'll find are some of those sites I showed you earlier. Yelp, Thomson Local, Yellow Pages Online, etc. And we call them citation, but you need to make sure that your business is listed on all of these sites. And there are paid services, but a lot of the things like Yelp, Yellow Pages Online, Yell, Thomson Local, these are all free services. And if you're listed on those, then you have what we just said, the level above. You now have a link on a high value site, which is pointing back to your site. So it's really important that you make sure that you're listed on those, because Google looks at it as well. How many listings have you got? Are you listed with good value sites? And I think on the previous slide, on one of the previous slides, we talked about how important local is, and it is very, very important. And all these sites you want to be going on there for your local business, because number one, local is easy to rank for, and number two, you can then obviously go into all these listings, and I think that's really important. Fourth, you need to have a social media presence. And we're going to talk about that in future weeks. I'm not going to go on that. Mobilize, we've already talked about. Okay, so moving on quite quickly. We're talking here about getting onto page one. Whenever I'm talking about, getting rankings, I'm talking about getting onto page one. This is just really an explanation of what we've already talked about. This is probably why I've been using Plumbers, because it's in my slides. Just a quick check back here. Everybody's still with us and understands what we've done so far. Just type yes into the box. There's no questions, so that's great. And no one's dropped off, which is also great. So if you can just put yes in the box, and then I can then move forward. Okay, yeah, getting yeses coming through. Excellent. So, okay. Just actually, before I move on, how many people currently have an online presence, and then how many people are where they want to be on Google. So, two questions there, and just put like one under the other. How many people have an online presence, and how many people are where they want to be on Google? So if you want to type that into the chat box, that would be really useful. Okay. So you've got a few people who, well, I mean, so most people have got an online presence, which is positive, but I think there's only one person who says that they are where they want to be online, which is standard. And while I'm here, I might as well ask another question. What's the main obstacle to you getting to where you want to be online? Okay. All right. Yeah. Time, money, time, capability. All right. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and there's no shame in it, because it's a standard issue. I mean, one of the biggest things is time, and we're going to talk about that, to how to chunk it up so you're just doing small amounts every day, but will still get you a real effective result. Money, you don't have to spend a lot of money. You can do it for free, of course, if you want to, if you have the time. But if you haven't got the time, then you have to balance it up and spend the money. And then capability, that's what this training is all about. This is to be able to give you the training. And this is a really important point, actually, that even if you're not going to do it yourself, the important thing from my own personal point of view when I started doing it is that even if you're going to hire somebody to do the work, I think it's important for you to understand what it is they're doing. So even if you're not going to do the work, this course will help you, so that when you go to speak to a person about doing some work for you, you at least understand what they're talking about. When they talk about SEO, when they talk about organic rankings, when they talk about PPC, you will at least know the terminology. Because what I found when I first came in and I started helping local businesses, a lot of them had been, for want of a better word, fleeced by big SEO companies who knew that they didn't know what they were doing. So they went in, talked to them, you're going to have to spend £1,000 a month, we're going to do this, we're going to do that, and then 6 months, a year later, they weren't achieving what they wanted to achieve. And that's because people didn't understand what was required. And what we're trying to help people to, in the Chamber of Commerce, is understand what needs to be done, and then decide whether they're going to do it or doing it, someone else do it. So, moving back, as I said, I hope you can see my little pointer here. Just in here, that's the paid listings, and you'll also get paid listings down here. So when you see these, and people think, oh, you're fantastic on page 1, well, I paid to be on page 1. Where you really want to be getting is here, where you see 24-hour plumbers in Liverpool, and you want to be there. And what you can see here is this is Yell.com, and this is exactly what I'm talking about. So if you are, and it says here, this is Andrew McIntosh, then all you need to do, well, not all you need to do, but you need to get listed in Yell. And because he's got reviews, and the important thing is nowadays, search engines are being driven by reviews. So you want to get on in Yell, but you don't want to get reviews. So I encourage you to get your customers who have used you to then put reviews in those places. Because what you can see here, this guy actually hasn't done a huge amount of work. What he's done is he's put himself in all the local listings, and I'll talk you through that over the next few weeks. And then automatically, because Yell is a high-value site, Google ranks that highly, and he's been put at the top of the listings. So without doing a huge amount of work, i.e. spending 800 quid a month or £1,000 a month for an SEO specialist, he has been able to get himself on the top of the Google listings. Also, this again is a listing service. This is called Google Plus Local. I mean, that's what we're going to be doing next week. And what you'll see is these are organic, well, they're organic listings, but they're Google Local listings. So again, by just knowing what you're doing with Google Local, you can get right at the top of page 1 very, very easily. And you can see that he's got 1 review, 2 reviews. And what this jumped out to me is if I'm a plumber in Liverpool, I can get right very easily because they've got hardly any reviews. If I get listed on Google Plus and get a lot of reviews, I will automatically jump over them. And then over here, you'll see my name down here. This is just one of the clients I was working for. And I didn't do a huge amount of work on that, but this is the reason I'm just identifying that. It's really important to look at different ways to get ranked in Google. And YouTube is owned by Google, so if you put a video there, then the likelihood is that you will get ranked a lot quicker than if you're just doing a standard listing. And I got listed, it's actually dropped a bit, because I've not done a lot of work on it recently, but that used to be number one. And I did that, I think, over a course of a weekend and a couple of days. And the only reason I was able to do that, number one, it wasn't that competitive, but number two, it's because I used a YouTube video. So we're looking at paid listings, Google local and organic listings, and we're focusing on the Google local and the organic listings. Okay, so Yahoo and Bing, don't overlook them. Although Google is the biggest and some would say the best, then Yahoo will still deliver results and you'll still get business. And it's pretty much the same, but it looks slightly different. You know, on the Yahoo one, it's a slightly different color. It's not pink for the paid listings. The local looks pretty similar, and they've got the star system as opposed down here. They've got the star system down here, and the one that means one review, and then they've got the organic again. Bing's exactly the same, so I'm not going to focus on there because I've got a lot to get through. So SEO, in essence, is inbound marketing. It's a perfect tool because what it does, it gets your products and service in front of prospective customers. And the most important thing, and this is a very American term, that you're getting it in front of people who are sitting down, card in hand, ready to purchase. Because if I, for example, type in 24-hour emergency plumber in Liverpool, then I'm looking for a 24-hour emergency plumber in Liverpool. I'm not just searching randomly. So whatever niche you're in or whatever your business or service is, what you're trying to get people to do or what you're trying to identify is what people are searching for and how do you then get ranked for that. And this is probably worthwhile for me mentioning at this point, is one of the biggest things or biggest mistakes I see businesses doing when I go to see them is to say, oh, well, I'm not sure what you can do for us because we're already ranking number one. Okay, what are you ranking number one for? One of my clients is Manchester English School. You know, they'll say, well, I'm ranking for Manchester English School. Well, yeah, of course you are, because that's your name. So you're going to rank for that. But is that what people are searching for? If it is, great, fantastic, you're right. Then there's no need to use any search engine stuff. There's other stuff we can do. But if people are actually searching for cheap courses in Manchester, learn English in Manchester, or just learn English, that's what you need to be ranking for, because you need to be ranking for what people are looking for, because then you are getting in front of them at the point that they are looking for that product or service. SEO doesn't interrupt. And just to explain here, what that means is that, you know, if you look at other forms of advertising, so let's say radio advertising or TV advertising, which historically has been the most expensive and people have spent millions on TV advertising, then actually that interrupts what you're doing. Because I'm watching a TV program and I want to watch a TV program. I then get interrupted by an advert which tells me about a plumber in Manchester. I might not be interested in a plumber in Manchester at that point. So what you're hoping is I show you often enough that when I am looking for a plumber in Manchester, you remember, oh yeah, there's that guy on the TV mentioned that he does plumbing in Manchester and he's a really good price. And even if that's the case, what's the first thing anyone's going to do? You're going to go to a website. You're going to go onto your search engine and say, I can't remember his name, or even if you do remember the name, you're going to type their name in the computer. And then you're going to then get a review of that person. So it doesn't interrupt, because with any other form of advertising, they're interrupting something you're doing. With this sort of advertising or marketing, then you're marketing to people who actually want that service at that specific time. And, you know, SEO is all about earning and building trust. It's a very trite saying, but people buy from people. And people can't see you on the website. So what you're trying to do is build trust. One way to build trust is for people to feel they know you. And that's why social is so important, because people start to feel they know you even though they've never met you. It's that you have a social presence because people are talking to you and you've got personality. And the second way is that actually you've got reviews and that people have said, actually I've used him, he's trustworthy. You know, people who know him, you've shared it, etc. So what you're trying to do with SEO is to achieve that, all those things. Now, this is just a bit of information about traffic distribution by Google ranking. And what you'll see here, if I can, I don't know if it works actually. Yeah, so stay a minute. There we go, point options. So if I do the highlighter, so if you see here, now that's ranked 1. So 42% of traffic will go to number 1. You see there's a massive drop off if you're number 2. So obviously you're trying to get to be number 2. However, If you've got a big market and you're number 2, getting 12% of traffic, it could be quite meaty now, and I'll talk about that shortly. Then it drops off, but not as significantly to rank 3. Now, the important thing here is that's how much the traffic comes to those places, but there's other things that you can do to maximize your click-through rate. So even if you're in place 3, if you have a video, for example, what you'll have seen from that listing I showed previously is that video actually probably jumps out at you more readily than just a standard listing. So even if you're on place 3, but you've got a video or your picture, then actually you might get more traffic than being ranked 1, because it's been proven, excuse me, that actually videos and pictures increase your click-through rate. The last thing I wanted to show you on here is if you look at page 2, because everyone talks about page 1, you've got to get page 1 ranking. Excuse me, I'm just going to take a drink of water. And of course, it's important that you get on page 1, but what you can see there is that page 2 will still give you 10% of search. So even if you're on page 2, if you've optimized your site right, you can still get business even if you're on page 2. But of course, we're aiming to get on page 1. I just thought it's interesting because people always say, oh, I'm on page 2, there's no point. That's not true. You can still actually get business from being on page 2, even though the goal is page 1. So this is just a quick example. Restaurants in Manchester. If you've got searches of 5,400, if you're a restaurant, if you're in position 1, 2002, and then drop down to 648 and position 3, 486. And I'm going to move quite quickly because I've still got loads to do, but I thought it was important to go through those. So let's get started on the 7 secrets. And just before I go on there, so just as a recap, SEO is really important. If you want to get found, SEO is going to boost your traffic, it builds relationships and influence, and it'll increase sales by gaining new customers. And one of the most important things is it's a level playing field. It doesn't matter how much money Apple, let's say for example you do mobile phones, spends on their SEO. If you make your content relevant and you position it in terms of making your listings predominant, and that you are ensuring that you're getting linked to the right site, big players in whatever marketplace you're in cannot do better than you by virtue of the fact that they're spending more than you. It's the only form of advertising I think that's the case, because it's about being relevant and being effective and doing it consistently, which will get you to the top of those rankings. And that's why I said that if you're not competing, then you're not in competition, really. Or if you're not competing online, it's really critical. Okay, so moving on. The first one is it all starts with keywords. And a keyword is what I just described before when I was talking about the Manchester English or plumber. What you want to know is, what are people searching for? What is it that when somebody's looking for your product or service, they're actually typing into that search bar? Are they typing in the company name? Probably unlikely, unless you're very well known. Or are they just typing in plumbers in Manchester, plumbing in Manchester, plumbers in Manchester? So knowing your target keywords is your first step. And I'm just going to drop out of here and move into my web, because the Google Keyword Planner is the first place to start when you do that. It used to be called Keyword Tool, but they've changed it now, so it's now called a Google Keyword Planner. Let me see if I can, no, I don't want to keep those annotations. So if I just drop out here and I go into my Firefox, so I've got one open just in case my my internet connection isn't fantastic. But basically, you go into here, just type in Keyword Planner, and it will whir around a bit. It's probably a bit slow in the end. Okay, there we go. So hopefully that's doing everything it should be doing. And then you'll come here, and then it says there, Keyword Planner has replaced the Keyword Tool. If you haven't got a Gmail account, I suggest that you get a Gmail account. I haven't tested this actually to see whether you can get into it. The Keyword Tool, you used to be able to get in without a Gmail account, and all you had to do was just sign one of those CAPTCHAs, and then it would give you the information. But I'm not sure whether that does it anymore. Then if you see here, it says tools and analysis, search for new keyword and ad groups. So click on that. And then all you then do in here is you'll just type in the keywords. So I'm going to do exactly what we were talking about before. So plumbers, plumber, plumbing supplies. That's not plumbing supplies. I need to put a G on there. Plumbing supplies and plumbing. And then just scroll down to the bottom here and then put get ideas. And then it'll whir about a bit and it'll then give you the keywords, this is ad groups. Click on the keywords tab. I think there's probably a bit of a delay actually. I'm hoping not too much of a delay. So yeah, click on the keywords tab. And you'll then see your search volumes. This then tells you, and it actually shows you now with a graph, what the search volume was. But this basically is average monthly searches. And that's interesting because most people would have thought, well, actually plumber would be the highest one, but actually plumbing supplies is higher. So even if you don't, if you've got plumbing supplies in your business, as opposed to putting plumber in there, which gives you 6,600, you would want to put plumbing supplies. And the other interesting thing here is that if you look at plumbers, just by adding an S onto it, you've got an extra 2,000 searches a month. So I'm not going to spend a load of time on this because we're actually going to spend the whole session, well, not a whole session, but part of a large session next week when we do about our Google Plus and Google local listings, about getting keywords and making sure that we're ranking for the right keywords. Because when you're putting your listings on, whether it's Thomson or Yell, you need to make sure that you're getting the right keywords. So this is really, really important. And then you're going to utilize these keywords to ensure that you put them in as you move through your site. Now, if you move down here, you've seen some of your plumbing trade supplies, plumbing supply. Now, whilst these are slightly lower, what you notice in this plumbing trade supplies, then the competition for it is less, and that means how many people are currently trying to compete for that keyword. So sometimes getting a slightly lower monthly search, but also a lower competition might be more effective. But we're going to talk about that in the coming weeks. So if I just go back to the presentation. So yeah, so it's really, really important that, as I said, it all starts with the keywords. Know what your keywords are, use that Google keyword plan, and don't worry, when I send out the replay, all of the links and all the things that I talk about and any of the questions, then I'll send those as well, so that you've got the information, so that you can just get that information and you can store that in a file. Choose your battles. Don't go for every single keyword, and we're going to talk about choosing about 5 keywords and focusing on those 5 keywords, because if you spread yourself too thin, then you'll be, Google wants to know actually what is this site about. This site is about plumbing supplies, for example, and then everything in that that feeds in, so that when someone puts in plumbing supplies or plumber, Google realizes, and directs you there. You get a good experience. People stay on online, and that's another way that Google checks to see whether or not you're relevant. If somebody goes onto your site and comes off immediately, that's called a very high bounce rate. That's what it's described as, and Google will penalize your site, because that means that the people who are coming onto your site don't really like your site, or it's not relevant. And that happened a lot in the early days, and still happens, whereby people understood that they need to do keywords, so they were stuffing their site with keywords, but then when you came to the site, the keywords weren't relevant to the material, so people were coming straight off the site, and Google will penalize you for that. So choose very, very carefully what your keywords are and focus on those few ones. Secondly, content is king. And again, as I said, all of these 7 things we're going to go over in more detail. Search engine, it says that feed on content. So it's critical that you get good, relevant content, and that you update your site on a regular basis, whether that's putting new content on, putting videos on, updating the site, changing things on the site, because Google does what we call crawls the site, and when it sees that you're putting new information on there, you've got people coming to it, you're getting a low bounce rate, you've got video on there because Google owns YouTube, so it sees that you've got videos on there, etc. All of a sudden, Google says this is a site that's popular and people like it. And don't always just talk about yourself. i.e. just talk about your business. Put funny stories on there. Although those stories are about your business, it might be a member of staff who's gone hill walking and, you know, went to this restaurant or staff party, etc. Anything like that, people love those sort of stories. It builds trust, it builds personality, and it allows you to put fresh content on there, which Google then loves and laps up. So that's important. You know, and that's what it says there. Train Google to keep crawling and indexing your site, and it does that by making sure that you're relevant, and it keeps coming back and saying, yeah, new content on there, re-indexing it. So every time, as we say, you get a new piece of information, we ping it, which is basically like ringing a doorbell to Google, and you basically say, Google, I've added a new piece of information, and then Google crawls it and indexes it. Although we just talked about keywords, don't obsess with the keywords. And what I mean here is you need to know what the keywords are. You need to have a relevance. But the most important thing is about that site being relevant to the keywords. So once you know, you know what the keywords are, you want to make sure that you're writing, as it says here, naturally, so that actually within your content, then it looks natural. It's not just spammed. It's not got loads and loads of keywords, phrases, and the general rule of thumb is for every 150 words, then you put in one maximum of 2 keywords. So it then looks natural that you're talking about plumbing supplies, as opposed to just mentioning plumbing supplies every other word. Number 3, have an active social media presence. We've explained why that's critical. Google Plus is owned by Google, so obviously social networks are becoming very, very important, and Google are really pushing it and trying to challenge Facebook, probably quite a ways off there, but they've overtaken Twitter, so you can see how important it is. So a simple piece of advice is add sharing buttons to your website and promote sharing, because that, again, allows you to start generating trust online. Get links from other high-value sites. And as I said, a link is like a vote for your site. If you've got a link on someone else's site, it's basically like saying someone saying, yeah, I vote for this site, I think this site is great. And obviously not all links are equal. So some sites are higher value sites than others, and they count more than others. So, you know, there's lots of sites. So when I'm talking about links, you know, a press release in a local paper, if they've got an online version, is a link. Well, actually, yeah, because they link it to your site. Local Chamber of Commerce, as I mentioned before, Yelp, Thomson Local, all those are links, and they have higher value than your site probably does currently, so they're very useful. And the more links you have, the better, as long as they're relevant. If you've got a link to some, I don't know, completely random site in India, for example, and the reason I mention that is because there are companies that have what we call link farms, and all they do is link to loads and loads of different sites, so that it looks like they've got millions of links. And that used to work in the old days, but Google now knows and value and looks at the type of the link and the type of the site. So if you've just got loads and loads of links, not only will Google discount those links, they'll actually penalise you. And that's why lots of companies have gone from page 1 to page 200 overnight, because they've just tried to play the system. It's not about playing the system, it's about building a business and building an online presence. And then number 5, Google loves video, obviously owns YouTube, and, you know, another little stat for you, YouTube is the second highest search engine in the world. So if you can get a link, well, not a link, but if you can get Google videos, and then you get a video which is very, very popular, and you obviously have your channel, you can put a link in your Google video underneath it, and that's a link back to your site. So if you start getting links back from YouTube, that is a vote for your site from a very, very high authority site. And people are much more likely to click on a video than they are to click on a normal listing. And we're going to give you loads of tips, so it's not a case of that you have to start worrying about, oh no, I don't like getting in front of the camera. Just like I'm doing now, and I'm recording this is, you can do a video like this, so you can just record something that you do, whether it's training, whether it's, you know, a demonstration of your service or product, and then you can put that online. It doesn't have to be you sitting in front of camera. If you're comfortable doing that, that always converts better, because people then buy into the person in the video. Yeah, roll the camera regularly, you know, update your videos, add different videos, and then use the keywords in the video and the video title. But we'll talk about that. And then again, we've already sort of like talked about this. It's about leveraging your channels. You know, you've got a better chance of ranking if you're on these things. You know, getting on YouTube is easy. You can create your own videos. We talked about getting on Amazon. And Amazon, people think, well, how can I get on Amazon? Really, really simple. Let's say, for example, because I do professional coaching. So let's say I am a professional coach. I read a coaching book. I go onto Amazon for that coaching book. I then write a review of that coaching book. So it's a fantastic book, and I put a link on Amazon to my site. So I put in my review, you know, if you want to know more about the book, click here, and it goes back to my site. That is then you have a link on a very, very, very high authority site. Same thing with Craigslist. Craigslist is just, for people who don't know, a local way to market products and services. You go on Craigslist, you just put a listing up there, and then you've got a link to your site from Craigslist, etc., etc. Same thing on Pinterest. Get your content on those sites because they're much more high authority than you are, and they're already ranking. So as you could see in that previous example I showed you, I'm just going to go over probably about another 5 minutes because we started a couple of minutes late, so we're just waiting for a few people and I've nearly finished. But yeah, you get your content on them. As I showed you that previous, the top organic ranking was for Yell.com. So if you're not on them, you're missing a huge trick because it's going to be very hard for you to dislodge a Yell.com because it's got such authority and it's got a lot of relevance. So Google will give it high authority. So it's much easier to get onto those sites to get ranked rather than trying to just automatically get ranked yourself directly from your website. So hopefully that makes sense. As it says there, they will rank. And the last one, as we said, and we're going to talk about this a lot next week, is optimize for local. You know, include local keywords throughout the content and the site. And when we're talking about local, we're not talking, all that means is put your a geographical identifier on it. So if I'm a plumber, as opposed to putting plumber, and we didn't do that, but we'll do that next week, as opposed to putting plumbing supplies, put plumbing supplies in Manchester. You know, as you saw that one I did, 24-hour plumber, emergency plumber in Liverpool, because these are what we call long-tail keywords, which, as I said, if someone types that in, there'll be less people typing that in than plumber in Liverpool, but that person is specifically looking for that service at that particular moment. It's easier to rank for, and you know you've got a buyer when they type that in. So, you know, put local keywords, they're much easier to rank for. Add your local address to your site and make sure that what's on your site is exactly what you put in the sites like Yell and Google Plus, etc. Add your local phone number and try and get that right so that when you look in your results, you've got some sort of call to action. So it says, we are, you know, plumbers. If you need help, call X. That always does very well, and you do the same thing in YouTube. And it says there, get listed in all of the local directories because you'll get links back to it. Create local videos because what you're trying to do is get that personality across so people know what it is you're trying to do, and people will warm to you, and then get links from local organisations and businesses. And so hint, you're on a chamber webinar, you know, you can get links from make sure you're listed on your local chamber because you'll have a link there and a high authority link. And then if you work with businesses, I'll run the plumber example through. If you're a local plumber and you've done work with somebody, say for example you work with an estate agent, you know, get that estate agent, you know, ask them nicely, get that estate agent to put your link on their site and then describe what you did and get them to get a review. Because the more local links you get, the more authority you have, and the more that people will see you as a trustworthy business person. And then, so those are the 7. And as I said, the video is going to go out, so hopefully you've been taking notes, but it'll still be there, and obviously I'm going to be available to take calls, etc. And then, you know, create content for people, not for search engines. So what we're saying there, again, make it natural. Think about what you would want to read when you're on there. Yes, put your keyword in there, but make sure it's people friendly, not search engine friendly, which is what some people do. Because if people like your content, they stay on the site longer. If you stay on the site longer, Google will take note and will rank you higher. Make it as often as possible. Share personal stories. Put stuff on there that people will like to read because that makes them stay on there longer. And more importantly than anything else, be consistent over time. I'm going to whiz through that. Yeah. Anyone who comes and tells you, as I think I've said at the beginning, that they'll do it, and you'll be ranking in a week. Don't trust them. It takes time, but I'm going to just talk you through your homework, so that'll help you. You need to create content, and we'll talk you through how you can do that without spending a huge amount of time. Link building can be slow, but again, we can help you with that in terms of telling you what you need to do. But you do need time to achieve results. And as I said, there's two types of people that are going to be on this call. So if you're not going to be one of those people who can actually do it or haven't got the time to do it yourself, definitely get a consultant, but don't go off the call and then do nothing. And I've got an email, a message from Francis who says, can we do it? Yes, we are consultants and we can do it, but that's not the purpose of this call. If you want to discuss anything like that with us, email us and hit us up, but the purpose of this call is to give information, not to sell my services. So I want to answer the question, but I don't want to spend loads of time discussing that. It's worth it, and we know it's worth it because it gives you an ROI. The ROI of SEO is well documented, and the beauty of it is even when you're sleeping, there'll be customers who are looking at your website. Even when your sales team is asleep, there'll be people, or not working, there'll be people actually searching and looking at your business, and you'll get customers. And a well-ranked website is a very saleable asset. It's a sellable asset actually just on its own, because there are sites where you can actually go and sell websites if they're doing very well. But even as a business, if you're selling your business, and we had a florist the other day who was selling her business, and because she had a really simple, easy-to-use website, that was actually, I'm not saying it was one of the reasons why those people were buying it, but it enhanced her package when she was selling her business, that she had an online presence which had lots of visitors, and she was getting customers through it. So it's a very saleable asset. So that is it. There's a couple of questions I'm going to answer, and then I'll give you a homework assignment. If you need, because I'm mindful of the time, and I know you're really busy. If you do need more questions than the ones I'm going to answer, then just email that support@trainingforlocalbusiness.com, and we'll get back to you. We'll get an expert to get back to you and make sure they answer your questions. And obviously, we're going to be back next week. So the question here from Francis is SEO good for all businesses? I think I partially answered that before, Francis. If you are getting all the business that you can handle, then there's no need. But if you need to increase the online presence, then yes, it is good for all businesses that want to increase their sales of products or services. And firstly, you need to find your target audience, and we're going to talk more about that. There's another question here from Ngemini. How much time does it take? Well, it depends. Actually, it's from Sarah, so not Ngemini. It's from Sarah. It depends, Sarah. It depends on how much time. What do you mean? Do you mean on a day-by-day basis, or how much time does it get to be listed? If you're talking about on a day-by-day basis, what we say is try and do at least an hour, if not, 30 minutes to half an hour. But the most important thing is be consistent. Don't do an hour today and then say, "Oh, I've done nothing tomorrow, so I'll do 2 hours on Wednesday," because you never will. You never get around to it. Just be consistent, small but consistent. And then it probably take you about 2 to 3 months realistically to get found. That doesn't mean that you won't get any business before that, but to get onto that page 1 ranking, that's probably how long it's going to take you to get there, and that will really start driving your business. But if you think about it, that's about an hour a day for 6 to 8 weeks, and then you have to continue doing it for 6 to 8 weeks. Then all of a sudden you will start getting business coming to you on a regular basis. Now, I'm very conscious of the time, so I'm only going to take those. And if you've got any further questions, just email me, no problem, at that email address. And now for your homework assignment. So first thing I want you to do is take your Google Planner tool, and I said I'll send you a link, and pull up the first listing on that Google Planner tool. Type in, so when I say that, I mean basically put in what you think that people are searching for, and you don't need to worry about broad match because that's from the old tool. Actually, now I'm looking at that, and just put that in there. And like I did, if you're a plumber, just put plumber, plumbing, plumbers, etc. And then also always go and check back to see the site, your site, or the sites that are there download to Excel, because there's a little download button in the planner tool. You download to Excel, and then you can then just mess around with those, study to see who is listed in the top 3. So once you've got your top 3, once you've got your keywords, go onto your site, put that in, so plumbing supplies, and see who's in the top 3. If it's you, that's absolutely fantastic. You've already done a lot of the work. If it's not, you want to start looking at, okay, so how, what are they doing that's gotten to that position? And just before, I do apologise, but just before I go into the time this week, there's just one other thing I want to show you. Obviously, I don't want to open that, which is really, really useful. So if I, for example, go in here, plumbers in Manchester, and this is one of the things I want you to do, actually. That's why I forgot. I just need to make sure that you do it. I don't know why it's still on there. Plumbers in Manchester. Right, there we go. So if you go to Plumbers in Manchester, not that one, My Builder, no, let me get an actual business. So if I go to Plumbers in Manchester, Plumber Man, who's he? Did we do a local plumber? Manchester plumber. So let me go here. AW Plumbing and Heating. Whirring away. Right, so if you go on here, this is a site. It was what, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the local rankings. If you right click on his site, what you'll see is you drop down here, it says view page source. Yeah? So if you click on that view page source, this will tell you everything you need to know about their site. So as you can see here, that will tell you what keywords he or she is using. Plumbers, heating services, emergency plumber, Cheshire, Manchester. So you can start to see what they're doing on their website to get themselves ranked. And then you can see it's got a description in here, the Northwest, and there'll be a title. Yeah, there's a title here as well. So you just, what I would suggest you do as part of that homework is go to your site again, just click right, and then it says view page source. I know it all looks very technical, but it's not, just view page source. Once you view the page source, you can then start to see exactly what your competitors are doing in terms of their SEO. And therefore, I'm not saying just completely plagiarize it, but if they're using plumbers, Manchester, Cheshire, and they're ranking very highly on Google, then it makes sense for you to use some of those along with your keyword research. So your time this week, your mission, if you choose to accept it, as they say. Day 1, do keyword research, create a notepad document, and then find your top 5 who are getting good search volumes, and then, day 2, go on to, do a Google search on the keyword and make notes on what type of results are being returned, who are the people in those top 3 results, what are the keywords that they're using, and what's the title and all that sort of stuff. You do that on day 3. Search the source of the top 3 to 5 business for each keyword. So you've got 5 keywords. You've then looked at who are the top 3 companies on there, and then you start looking at the source, which is what I just said. Right-click, view page source, and then start to document on day 4 the listing sites you like based on the keyword. So you then start looking at Yelp. And actually, I've got a link to a page which actually gives you all of the listing sites which are free. It shows the paid ones as well, but it shows you all the free ones, so you can start looking at those. So actually, day 4 will be a very easy day for you, because I'm going to do that for you pretty much. Day 5, start a document listing interesting posts based on keywords. So just search, if you're a plumber, look plumbing blog. If you're a builder, building blog. Just type it into Google, whatever you are. Start looking at those, because that will give you more keywords you can use potentially, but it will also start giving you information that you can start posting about, because you'll start seeing certain topics are more popular than other topics, and if you focus on those, you'll do very, very well. So thank you very much for that. That's pretty much it for this week. We hope you've found it useful. Next week we're going to be doing Google Plus. And that is really when you start getting into the nitty-gritty of taking what you've done during this week and then really start to accelerate those listings. I think on the site it's called just Google Plus Local, but I think I've changed the title now to the Changing World of Search Engines. So thanks very much for your time. Thank you very much to everybody. I'm getting a lot of thanks very much. So I really appreciate you popping in, and I will see you next week. Thanks very much.